Rain pounds against the cracked apartment windows like fists demanding entry. Imani Carter steps inside, her diner uniform clinging to her skin, the smell of grease and exhaustion following her like a shadow. She stops cold. Two men in black suits stand in the middle of the room. Not loud, not rushed. Calm in a way that makes fear sink deeper. Her father is on his knees. They talk about debt, about interest, about time that has already run out. Her father begs. His voice breaks as he offers his own life, his future, whatever they want. The men barely glance at him. Their eyes slide past him and settle on her instead. That is the moment Imani understands. She is not being threatened. She is being measured. Minutes later, she is in the back of a black car, cutting through Seoul's glowing night. No explanations. No mercy. Just inevitability. When the gates open to a silent estate overlooking the city, she braces for pain. It doesn't come. Instead, she meets a man who barely acknowledges her presence, Han Jae-min. Perfectly tailored suit. Eyes carved from ice. Control so complete, it feels like the air bends around him. He doesn't touch her. Doesn't raise his voice. He only says, "You belong here now." Something inside Imani doesn't shatter. It sharpens. She lifts her chin and meets his gaze, not knowing this single act of defiance will begin the collapse of an empire built on fear. But she didn't know. He was the most feared man in Seoul. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to Love and Loyalties. There's more to this story than you think. Imani Carter is 22 years old when her life fractures. She works double shifts at a diner, studies at night, and learned early how to survive without softness after her mother died and poverty became permanent. She doesn't waste words. She watches. She listens. Even when fear tightens around her throat, she refuses to collapse. In the beginning, she wears a faded diner uniform, simple cornrows pulled back, tired eyes that have learned how to hide tears. When she is taken into a world she never chose, she is dressed in luxury that feels like a cage. Silk dresses, polished heels, beauty forced onto her like a costume. The turning point comes when she steps into an emerald gown, her posture unflinching, her silence no longer submission but warning. In the end, she stands in a wedding gown threaded with African kente accents, her identity no longer hidden or borrowed, but claimed. Han Jae-min rules Seoul's underworld without raising his voice. His empire hides behind legitimate companies, clean boardrooms, and polished smiles. But beneath it runs a criminal network built on fear and precision. He believes control is protection, that power is the only language safety understands. His emotional flaw is simple and dangerous. He doesn't know the difference between possession and love. He moves in tailored charcoal suits, a faint scar cutting through one eyebrow, menace held tightly beneath restraint. He never needs to shout. His presence does the work for him. Marcus Carter is a father hollowed out by bad choices and unbearable guilt. Crushed by debt and desperation, he becomes the spark that ignites his daughter's nightmare. Over time, shame ages him faster than years. But his arc bends toward redemption as he finally confronts what he sacrificed and what he can never fully repay. Madame Seo is elegance in a cold house. A quiet, graceful woman who manages the compound, she becomes Imani's shield in a place ruled by danger. Her kindness is deliberate, her loyalty fierce. She offers warmth where none should exist and becomes the closest thing to family Imani has in captivity. Chairman Chen wears entitlement like a birthright. A powerful ally who believes women are ornaments, his public disrespect toward Imani triggers the moment everything shifts. His arrogance exposes the danger of underestimating a woman who has learned how to survive. Ji-yoon comes later. Small hands, unafraid laughter, living proof that the story does not end in ruin. Through this child, the cycle of pain breaks, and what was built on fear is finally forced to become something gentler, something better. The first knock doesn't sound like danger. It sounds polite, almost apologetic. Imani is still tying her shoes when it happens, fingers stiff from a double shift at the diner. The apartment smells like burnt coffee and damp walls. Rain leaks through the cracked window frame, tapping steadily, as if counting something down. She opens the door expecting a neighbor, maybe a complaint. Instead, two men in black suits step inside without asking. They don't look around. They don't raise their voices. They don't even glance at the peeling paint or the secondhand furniture. Their attention is fixed on her father, who is already backing away, hands trembling, face drained of color. They speak calmly. About debt. About interest. About how long they've waited. Imani stays frozen near the door, listening as if this is happening to someone else. Her father stumbles over apologies, promises, excuses that sound thin even to her. When he finally drops to his knees, offering his own life, his own body, anything, she flinches. The men don't look at him. They look at her. One of them tilts his head slightly, as if considering a purchase. The other asks her name, soft and careful, like it matters. That is when understanding hits her hard enough to steal her breath. She isn't being threatened. She is being assessed. Her father sobs then, loud and broken, but the men are already done. One of them gestures toward the door. They tell her she can pack a bag if she wants. They tell her running would be unwise. They tell her this is the cleanest way. Imani looks at her father, at the man who raised her alone after her mother died, at the man whose mistakes have now wrapped chains around her future. Rage flickers inside her, sharp and bright, but it doesn't win. She nods once. The car waiting outside is black, quiet, and too expensive for this neighborhood. No one speaks as they drive through the city. Seoul glows outside the window, neon lights reflecting off wet streets, a world that suddenly feels unreachable. Imani presses her forehead to the glass, forcing herself not to cry. Her mother's voice echoes in her memory, calm and firm. Stand straight, even when you're scared. The estate gates open silently. The house beyond them doesn't look real. Clean lines. Soft lighting. Guards who don't stare but see everything. Luxury arranged like a warning. Inside, the air smells faintly of wood and something expensive she can't name. A woman in elegant black greets her, eyes kind but cautious, and leads her through wide hallways where her footsteps feel too loud. She expects shouting, threats, violence. She gets none of it. The room they bring her to is vast and quiet. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city she just came from, now far below her. A man stands near the glass, hands in his pockets, posture relaxed in a way that feels deliberate. He turns when she enters. Han Jae-min. She knows the name instantly. Everyone does, even if they pretend not to. Underground king. Untouchable. The man people disappear around. His suit is perfectly tailored, his hair immaculate. A faint scar cuts through one eyebrow, as if to remind anyone watching that perfection has a cost. His eyes pass over her without interest, then return, sharper, colder. He doesn't ask her how she's feeling. He doesn't ask why she's there. He asks if she understands why she was brought to him. Imani swallows. Because my father owes you money. He nods once, satisfied. And he couldn't pay. Silence stretches. He steps closer, not invading her space, but claiming it anyway. Debt is transferable, he says calmly. People are not. Her jaw tightens. Then why am I here? For the first time, something flickers in his eyes. Curiosity, not kindness. Because you chose to come. She meets his gaze, heart hammering. I chose to protect my father. Choice, he repeats, as if tasting the word, is rarely pure. A tray of documents is placed on the table beside them, numbers she doesn't understand. Figures too large to feel real. Han Jae-min gestures toward them casually. The debt is now yours. Imani stares at the papers. I don't have that kind of money. No, he agrees. You don't. She waits for him to say what he wants from her. He doesn't rush. That is what scares her most. You will stay here, he says finally. You will work. You will be useful. When the debt is paid, you will be free. Her hands curl into fists at her sides. Work how? He looks at her fully now. Measures her again. You'll learn. Something inside her rises then. Not loud, not reckless. Steel. She lifts her chin. I won't be touched. The room stills. Guards tense. Even the elegant woman near the door inhales sharply. Han Jae-min studies her, long and slow. Then, unexpectedly, he steps back. I didn't say you would be. The relief almost knocks her over. Almost. He turns away, already dismissing her, already certain the matter is settled. You'll stay, he says calmly. You'll learn how my world works. And in that moment, Imani understands that survival will not come from escape. It will come from endurance. Imani learns quickly that the mansion is not meant to be navigated, it is meant to be endured. She moves through it quietly, memorizing corners, listening to the way sound travels across marble floors and disappears into high ceilings. She watches guards without staring, staff without trusting, cameras without acknowledging them. No one gives her orders directly. That, she realizes, is the first test. Confusion is a weapon here. If you don't know the rules, you break them without meaning to. Han Jae-min does not summon her for days. Instead, he lets the silence work on her. Her room is too perfect. Silk sheets. A view that steals her breath every morning. A closet filled with dresses that cost more than everything her father ever owned. Luxury presses in from every angle, demanding gratitude. She feels it trying to soften her, to make her forget why she is here. She refuses. When staff bring her meals, she thanks them politely but eats slowly, carefully. When guards watch her, she pretends not to notice. When hours stretch with nothing to do, she does not pace. She sits. She thinks. She waits. The first time Han Jae-min calls for her, it is late. She is led into a smaller room lined with bookshelves and dark wood. He is seated at a low table, reviewing documents, not looking up when she enters. He gestures to the floor beside the table, not the chair across from him. Imani stops walking. The guard behind her stiffens. I prefer chairs, she says calmly. Han Jae-min's pen pauses. Slowly, he looks up at her. The room tightens, as if holding its breath. Do you? He asks. Yes. A long moment passes. Then, without comment, he gestures to the chair opposite him. That is how it begins. The tests are never obvious. He asks her questions without context. Leaves her waiting for hours, then dismisses her in seconds. Gives instructions that contradict each other just enough to see which one she will follow. He watches her reaction more than her obedience. She answers when she knows. She admits when she doesn't. She never begs. It unsettles him. One night he asks her what she sees from her window. The city, she says. Everyone sees that. She considers the question again. Distance, she answers finally. From where I came from who I was. His eyes sharpen. And who were you? Someone invisible, she says, until I wasn't. He studies her then, really studies her, as if she has shifted shape without permission. Another night, when rain turns the glass walls into mirrors, he notices her hair. The cornrows are neat, precise, practical. Not styled for beauty. Styled for survival. "How long does it take?" he asks. She blinks, caught off guard. "Hours. Why not change it?" "Because it's mine." That answer lingers between them. She tells him her mother used to braid her hair at the kitchen table, fingers gentle even when life wasn't. She doesn't embellish. She doesn't perform grief. She states it like a fact carved into her. "My mother said you should never make yourself small to survive," Imani adds quietly. She said, "Stand straight, even when someone wants you to bow." Han Jae-min doesn't respond right away. When he does, his voice is lower. She sounds inconvenient. Imani almost smiles. As days pass, she begins to understand the rhythm of the house. When meetings happen, which voices carry power? Which smiles are lies? She overhears conversations not meant for her, murmured Korean, clipped Mandarin, numbers that don't match the ledgers she's seen. She understands more than they realize. One afternoon, while standing just outside a conference room, she hears her own name spoken softly, dangerously. A discussion about leverage. About weakness. About how attachments make men careless. Her stomach tightens. Later that night, Han Jae-min confronts her. "You listen," he says. "I hear," she corrects. He steps closer. Close enough that she can smell his cologne, something dark and expensive, layered with restraint. That can be dangerous. "So can underestimating people," she replies. For the first time, he laughs. It is brief. Humorless. Real. He begins asking her opinion without framing it as such. About numbers. About people. About how she would handle a betrayal. She answers carefully, honestly. She does not try to impress him. She tries to survive him. What she doesn't expect is the loneliness. It shows in small ways. In how he stays too late in empty rooms. In how he never talks about family. In how power fills every space except the one where trust should be. One night, as she returns to her room, she pauses outside a door left slightly open. Inside, Han Jae-min sits alone, jacket discarded, staring at nothing. Not planning. Not calculating. Just sitting. For a brief second, he looks tired. Not powerful. Not dangerous. Human. She walks away quietly. Later, lying awake beneath silk sheets she did not choose, Imani realizes the truth settles heavy in her chest. Han Jae-min is far more dangerous than she imagined. And far more alone. The first time Han Jae-min takes her underground, he does not warn her. They descend past levels of polished marble and controlled silence into a place where the air changes. Cooler. Heavier. The walls are concrete now, the lighting harsh and unforgiving. This is not a space meant to impress. It is meant to prepare. "This is where people learn truth," he says, voice echoing softly. About themselves. Imani keeps her shoulders straight. "And what am I supposed to learn?" He doesn't answer immediately. He gestures toward a table where weapons are laid out with unsettling precision. Not chaos. Order. Control. Everything here exists because someone decided it should. "My father built this," Han Jae-min says, almost casually. "He believed fear was loyalty." Imani looks at him sharply. "He was wrong," Han continues. "Fear is temporary. Power must be absolute." She understands then that this is not a confession meant to soften her. It is information. A warning wrapped in honesty. He tells her how his father ruled with cruelty, how alliances were bought with blood, how weakness was punished publicly. He tells her how one night, The throne became empty. You killed him, she says quietly. Yes. The word lands between them like a blade set carefully on a table. No drama. No regret in his tone. Just fact. Did you have a choice? She asks. He studies her for a long moment. I chose the outcome. Something in her chest tightens. And do you regret it? For the first time since she met him, Han Jae-min looks away. I regret what it cost, he says finally. He leads her to an open space marked with lines on the floor. You will learn how to defend yourself, he says. Not because I fear for you. Because I respect strength. She doesn't know whether to believe him, but she nods. The training is brutal in its precision. He corrects her stance without touching her at first. Demonstrates movements slowly, deliberately. When he does place his hands on her shoulders to adjust her balance, he pauses. Tell me to stop, he says quietly. She meets his eyes. Don't. They move again. She stumbles. He catches her before she falls, grip firm but controlled. Her heart hammers, not from fear, but from the sudden closeness. She twists out of his hold, remembering what he taught her seconds earlier, and he stills, surprised. A flicker of something like pride crosses his face. You learn fast, he says. I have to, she replies. No one ever protected me. That lands deeper than she expects. His jaw tightens. As days pass, the training becomes routine. Bruises bloom on her skin. Strength settles into her muscles. She learns how to strike, how to escape, how to stand her ground. More importantly, she learns that he never crosses the line he draws. One night, after training runs late, the tension finally snaps. They stand too close. Breathing too hard. The room quiet except for the hum of fluorescent lights. You look at me like you're trying to solve something, Han says. I am, she replies. You. A dangerous admission. She knows it the moment the words leave her mouth. You won't like the answer, he says. Try me. He steps closer. Close enough that she can feel the heat of him. Everything I am was built to survive, he says. Love is a liability. And yet, she says softly, you keep me here. Silence stretches, thick and charged. I keep you because you challenge me, he admits. Because you see what others pretend not to. Because you don't kneel. Her voice shakes despite her effort to steady it. Do you ever wish you were someone else? His eyes darken. That is a dangerous question. Answer it anyway. He reaches out, stopping just short of touching her face. If I had been, he says quietly, I would not be alive. Something in her breaks open then. Not fear, but understanding. She sees the boy beneath the king. The cost beneath the crown. He leans in slowly. So slowly she could stop him at any moment. Tell me to stop, he says again. Her breath catches. This time, the choice is real. Cool. Terrifying. She doesn't say no. Their lips meet in a kiss that is careful, restrained, almost reverent. Not hunger. Not conquest. A question. And she answers it, briefly, before pulling away. Her hands tremble. Her heart feels too full, too fast. This can't happen, she says, stepping back. Han Jae-min doesn't chase her. He doesn't reach for her. He lets her go. She walks away shaken, not by fear of him, but by fear of herself. Because for the first time since she was taken, Imani realizes the most dangerous thing in this house is not the man who rules it. It is the part of her that wants him. The dinner is announced 3 days in advance, which tells Imani everything she needs to know. Nothing in Han Jae-min's world is spontaneous. If something is planned, it is calculated. If it is public, it is dangerous. They dress her for visibility. The gown is emerald silk, cut to follow her body without apology, the color making her skin glow beneath the chandeliers. It is not chosen for her comfort. It is chosen to signal ownership. When she looks at herself in the mirror, she understands the message being sent to every man who will see her tonight. She straightens her spine anyway. The dining hall fills with power before it fills with voices. Men in tailored suits, women draped in diamonds, laughter sharpened by ambition. Alliances sit beside rivalries pretending to be friendships. Every glance is a calculation. Every smile hides teeth. Han Jae-min takes his seat at the head of the table without ceremony. When he gestures for Imani to sit beside him, the room shifts. Conversations pause for half a breath too long. Eyes linger. She does not lower her gaze. Chairman Chen arrives late. He is loud in the way entitled men often are, filling space as if it belongs to them by default. He kisses the air near women's cheeks, claps men on the shoulder, laughs too hard at his own jokes. When his eyes land on Imani, they linger openly. "Ah," he says, switching to accented English. "So, this is the new decoration." The word lands like a slap. Imani feels the tension ripple through the room. She senses Han beside her go still, the air around him tightening. She does not look at him. "Careful," someone murmurs. Chairman Chen only smiles wider. "She's beautiful," he continues, raising his glass. "But beauty should know when to stay quiet." A few men chuckle. Others look away. Imani places her napkin carefully on the table. She does not rush. She does not react the way he expects. "I understand you," she says calmly, meeting his gaze. "Perfectly." That catches his attention. "Do you?" "Yes," she replies, "and you should choose your words more carefully." The room freezes. Chairman Chen laughs, a short bark of amusement. "You're bold for a guest." "I'm not a guest," she says. He leans back in his chair, amused now. "Then, what are you?" She rises slowly. Every movement deliberate. Someone who was taught how to stand. His smile sharpens. "Sit down before you embarrass yourself." She doesn't. When he reaches for her arm, it happens fast. Training takes over before fear can catch up. She twists, steps inside his reach, redirects his momentum just enough to make him stumble back into his chair. It is not violent. It is precise. Controlled. Gasps break the silence. Imani stands over him, breathing steady. "Don't touch me again." For a moment, no one speaks. Then Han Jae-min rises. The sound of his chair scraping back is quiet, but it carries. He steps beside Imani, placing one hand at the small of her back. Not possessive. Protective. The gesture alone redraws the room's power lines. "She understands me," he says calmly. "That should concern you." Chairman Chen's face drains of color. "This is a misunderstanding." Han's voice doesn't rise. "You disrespected what is mine." The word hangs heavy. Ownership and protection tangle together in a way that makes Imani's chest tighten. "She is under my protection," Han continues, eyes locked on Chen. "Anyone who forgets, that will answer to me." No one challenges him. The rest of the dinner continues on shattered nerves. Conversations resume cautiously. Laughter sounds forced. Eyes keep sliding back to Imani, now no longer decoration, but warning. She feels it then. The shift. Later, as the guests leave, she hears whispers she isn't meant to. Words like leverage, weakness, attachment. She understands enough to know what they mean. In the car on the way back, silence stretches between her and Han Jae-min. "You didn't have to do that," she says finally. "Yes," he replies. "I did." "That wasn't protection," she says. "That was a declaration." He looks at her then. "I don't hide what matters." And what happens, she asks quietly, when what matters becomes a target? His jaw tightens. He doesn't answer. That night, she stands on the balcony overlooking the city, the emerald gown folded carefully on the bed behind her. Seoul glitters below, indifferent and endless. She understands now that staying means becoming a weapon someone else can use. She understands something else too. She is changing him, and that may cost them both everything. By morning, her decision is made. She leaves without a goodbye. And somewhere deep inside the empire he built on control, something fractures. She left, and he was never the same. The attack comes just before dawn, when the estate is quiet enough to pretend peace exists. Imani wakes to the sound of glass shattering somewhere below her room. Not the sharp crash of an accident, the deliberate break of intrusion. The lights flicker once. Twice. Then the alarms scream. She is on her feet instantly, training snapping into place before fear can slow her down. She reaches for the door just as it bursts open. Madame Seo is there, not panicked. Not screaming. Calm in a way that cuts through chaos. "This way," she says firmly, already pulling Imani into the corridor. Smoke curls from the stairwell. Shouts echo in languages Imani has learned to recognize. This is not random. This is retaliation. They move fast, feet barely touching the floor, Madame Seo's grip tight despite her age. A gunshot cracks close enough to rattle Imani's teeth. They turn a corner too late. Men flood the hall. Imani feels Madame Seo shove her backward hard enough to send her sprawling. "Run," she orders. The next sound is a shot that doesn't belong to Imani's escape. She scrambles to her feet just in time to see Madame Seo fall. Blood spreads across the marble like a stain the house has been waiting for. Madame Seo's eyes find hers, steady even now. Her lips move. "Live." Imani's scream tears out of her chest, raw and unrestrained, but hands are already dragging her away. Guards close ranks around her, shielding her body with theirs. She fights them until someone says Han Jae-min's name, sharp and urgent. He finds her in the safe room minutes later, smoke clinging to his suit, jaw clenched so tight it looks painful. His eyes sweep over her, checking for wounds, for blood that isn't hers. "She's gone," Imani chokes. He knows who she means. Something cold and lethal settles over his face. "You're leaving," he says immediately. Not a suggestion. An order. "Tonight." "No," she snaps. "This isn't a discussion." "She died protecting me," Imani says, stepping toward him. "I'm not running." "This world will kill you," he says, voice low and dangerous. "I won't let it." "You don't get to decide that anymore," she fires back. Grief sharpens her words into weapons. "You taught me how to stand. Don't try to push me back onto my knees." He stares at her like she struck him. "I'm trying to keep you alive. And I'm trying to live," she says. There's a difference. The war comes fast after that. Meetings stretch through nights. Phones ring without pause. Names are crossed out. Territories shift. The house fills with tension and blood and resolve. Han Jae-min becomes something colder, more ruthless, the king returning fully to his throne. Imani does not disappear. She listens, watches, learns. When they talk about routes, she sees patterns. When they argue over loyalty, she notices inconsistencies. One night, she interrupts a meeting without meaning to. "That's wrong," she says quietly. Every head turns. Han watches her carefully. "Explain," she does. Clearly. Clearly. She points out the trap hidden inside a proposed alliance, the numbers that don't add up, the timing that makes no sense. Silence follows. Then someone nods. Plans change. It happens again. And again. Slowly, resistance turns into respect. She isn't muscle. She isn't decoration. She is a mind. Sharp, observant, unafraid. The war ends the way wars in Han Jae-min's world always do. Decisively. Quietly. Permanently. Afterward, he finds her in the garden Madame Seo once tended, soil still disturbed where flowers were replanted in memory. He looks older. Tired in a way power can't fix. It's over, he says. She nods. For now. He hands her a folder. Inside are documents, signatures, numbers stamped with finality. Your father's debt is paid, he says. Completely. Her breath stutters. Why? Because it never should have touched you, he replies. He hesitates, then adds the words she never expected to hear. You're free to go. The silence that follows is heavier than any gunfire. Imani closes the folder slowly. You're letting me leave? Yes. Not because he wants to. Because he has learned to choose differently. She steps closer. If I stay, she says, it won't be because I owe you. I know. If I stay, it won't be as something you protect by controlling. I know. If I stay, she finishes, voice steady, it's as your equal. He meets her gaze, something vulnerable breaking through the armor. That's the only way I want you. She searches his face, the man who once owned her future, the man who tried to cage her, the man who tried to open his hand. Then she nods. I choose you, she says. Not as a prisoner. He exhales like he's been holding his breath for months. As my partner. She steps into his space, this time without fear, without hesitation. The kiss they share is not desperate. It is earned. And for the first time since the night she was taken, Imani knows she is exactly where she stands. By choice, by strength, by her own will. The wedding does not erase the past. It stands beside it. Imani walks forward, wrapped in white, the fabric threaded with African kente patterns that honor where she came from, not where she was taken. Her hair is braided and lifted into an intricate crown, each line deliberate, each detail chosen by her. The room is quiet as she meets Han Jae-min at the altar, his traditional Korean hanbok giving way to a tailored suit beneath, two worlds meeting without either disappearing. When the vows are spoken, there is no promise of perfection, only choice. Again and again. Afterward, change comes slowly, the way real transformation always does. Han dismantles pieces of his empire that thrived on fear, replacing shadows with structures that can stand in daylight. Legitimate businesses expand. Old alliances fade. Power remains, but it learns restraint. Imani finishes her education without ceremony. No headlines. No applause. Just discipline and resolve. She steps into boardrooms with the same unflinching posture she once wore in captivity, now running operations, building foundations, redirecting money toward futures that don't require blood to survive. People listen to her because they have learned not to underestimate her. Their child comes quietly into the world, small hands grasping life with confidence neither of them ever had at that age. Laughter replaces gunfire. Mornings replace alarms. In the afternoons, the child runs through the garden Madame Seo once tended, feet kicking up soil, hands reaching for leaves she planted with care. Imani watches from the terrace, one hand resting on her belly, the other wrapped in Han's, feeling the weight of what was lost and what was rebuilt. The woman who once stared at water stains on a ceiling now stands in a place she chose, shaping a future she owns. And love, finally, is no longer a cage. If this story touched you, subscribe to Love and Loyalties and comment your dream next couple.